Former Treasurer and Prime Minister Paul Keating led an aggressive economic reform agenda that eventually led to the longest period of sustained economic growth in Australia's history. I think his dedication to creating jobs for Australians was laudable and ensures his place as a Labor icon. Unfortunately, his economic record was trashed by the following government, who ironically were the beneficiaries of his hard work. Mr. Speaker, for as far back as I can remember having any political beliefs, I have believed in the power of the economy as a force for good and positive change, a force that can generate the wealth to allow government to provide the services that all Tasmanians deserve. The first order of business for any government should be to create and protect jobs. There is no greater driver of social capital than a job. There is no better way for a person of working age to gain a sense of identity, dignity and self-respect than having a job. There is no better driver of improvements in health outcomes and living standards, of education and training qualifications and of accessing affordable housing. By creating jobs, we can go a substantial way towards achieving these things before the government has to spend a cent. There is no doubt that in trying to achieve the best economic and social outcomes, job creation must be the #1 government initiative. I want to see a Tasmania where every person in need of a job is engaged in stable, dignified and meaningful employment. That is what the Labor Party has fought for in Tasmania for over a century. And as the Premier reiterated in his State of the State address on Tuesday, it remains the driving force of those who have the honour to sit on this side of the House. Mr. Speaker, I am just old enough to remember a time when the first ambition of any school-aged Tasmanian was to leave the state at the first opportunity. Melbourne and Sydney drew Tasmanians in their late teens like some irrepressible magnet. Young people wanted what young people have always wanted, a path to opportunity, the chance to get a job and establish their adult lives. Back in the mid-1990s, that meant getting on the first plane out as soon as you were old enough to buy your own ticket. The uncertainty, the anxiety, the fear and the pessimism that abounded in the days of the hung Parliament of 1996 to 98 caused young Tasmanians to leave in droves, leading an alarming population decline in the state. It's taken a decade, but we've been able to turn that trend around. When Jim Bacon was elected Premier in 1998, he expressed an optimism about Tasmania's future that few at the time were willing to share. The persistence of his optimism gave people a reason to hope, to believe that things could be better. He also had the foresight to recognise and exploit Tasmania's natural advantages for Tasmania's economic gain. Tasmania's economic performance over the past decade was not a miracle, nor was it an accident. Majority Labor government has brought Tasmania out of the depths of economic despair. It's no accident that Tasmania's unemployment rate is now below the national average, when previously it was 2% higher. It's no accident that business investment in Tasmania since 1998 has grown by 75%. It's no accident that the number of long-term unemployed in Tasmania has fallen to a quarter of its 1998 level. It's no accident that $1.6 billion in government debt was paid off without having to sell the hydro. It would be easy to dismiss this as the local effects of Australia's economic boom, but that's only half the story. After all, Tasmania's economy has been the fastest growing in Australia, faster even than the resource-rich states of Western Australia and Queensland. Most Tasmanians I speak to now say there is a renewed sense of optimism in this state. And people moving to Tasmania today have the chance to seize economic opportunity as well as appreciate the state's natural beauty. The success of the Bacon government was in pursuing and delivering major infrastructure projects, supporting those industries that built on Tasmania's natural advantages. 2 fast ferries across Bass Strait provided competition with the airlines and dramatically boosted our visitor numbers. Wind farms on Tasmania's coast and the importation of natural gas complemented our renewable hydroelectric energy. And the business environment was changed by turning Tasmania from one of the least competitive tax regimes to the most competitive in the country. This economic strategy has paid significant dividends. The hard work done by Labor governments to strengthen our economy could not have been more timely. With the onset of the global financial crisis, There has never been a more important time than now to take action to protect jobs. Mr. Speaker, many of those jobs that we need to protect are in our hard-working forest industries. The families and communities of the southern part of my electorate of Franklin have built their lives around a sustainable Tasmanian timber industry for generations. A forest industry that today complies with the International Standard for Environmental Management Systems, the Regional and Community Forest Agreements, the Australian Forestry Standard and the Forest Practices Code. A forest industry that today takes action to protect endangered species and maintain a sustainable supply of timber. A forest industry that today is being innovative, not only through continuous improvement in its harvesting practices, but by seeking value-adding opportunities that create jobs in Tasmania. The forest industries have a vital place in a diverse Tasmanian economy and can continue to be an employer for thousands of Tasmanians for generations to come. We must not get hung up on false dichotomies between jobs in forestry and jobs in tourism, because forestry and tourism have coexisted for decades and will continue to coexist. Mr. Speaker, there are no workers in the state of Tasmania that are more threatened, more vilified, more obstructed from going about their lawful business than those in forestry. I've had the chance to meet with plenty of forestry workers to see the hard work that they put into sustainable forest management. They come to work every day for a chance to earn a decent living, not to be exposed to the derision and the name-calling that is unfairly heaped upon them. And they genuinely feel that as far as some Tasmanians are concerned, nothing they do will ever be good enough. It won't be good enough, Mr. Speaker, because the critics won't be happy until they've shut down the forest industry altogether. Mr. Speaker, it's time to end this siege against Tasmanian workers. If there's one thing I would like to achieve in this Parliament, it's to step up our efforts to combat the campaigns of misinformation about the environmental impacts of our sustainable industries such as forestry and fisheries, and the campaigns of misinformation against value-adding proposals such as the Bell Bay pulp mill. I believe we also need to strengthen deterrence against those who use illegal and dangerous methods to stop forest and forest processing activities. The right to protest is about the right to make a political point without fear of retribution. It is not about stopping hard-working Tasmanians from going about their lawful business. In a democracy, the legitimate means of effective change are by the ballot box and the soapbox, not by stopping Tasmanian workers from earning a lawful living.